Hare Krishna. Very warm welcome to our show. Today, our speaker is His Grace, Shubha Vilas Prabhuji. Shubha Vilas Prabhuji is a TEDx speaker, lifestyle coach, storyteller, and author. He studied patent law after completing his engineering degree, but finally he chose the path of spiritual seeker. He is author of best-selling books Open Eye Meditation and Ramayana, the Game of Life series. The focus of his work is the application of scriptural wisdom in the day-to-day living, addressing the needs of corporate and youth through thought-provoking seminars. He has delivered more than 4,000 lectures across the globe. He is also a visiting faculty at the Indian Institute of Management. To know more about him, visit www.shubhvilas.com. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
A test of a true ship is not how well it does in a dock, but how well it does in a storm. So, similarly, the true test of a relationship is not how well it looks on Facebook or Instagram, but how well it looks in the midst of conflict. So, when people connect with one another, there is bound to be conflicts. Whether it is an employee connecting with an employer, whether it is a husband connecting with a wife, whether it is a parent connecting with a child, whether it is people on the streets connecting with one another, road rage and all that. So it's wherever there is people, there is always going to be a potential conflict. Good relationships are formed not when there is no conflict at all, but in spite of conflict, in spite of differences, how do you really stay together and connected? That's what determines the quality and the strength of a relationship. In my understanding, there are 5 sutras that define good relationships. And if you just follow these 5, that's all. Life will be very, very good. Unfortunately, to follow these 5, you need a lifetime of practice. So this seminar is essentially going to be, how do you do these 5 things in a stable way? The 5 sutras of effective relationship are: first is appreciate the good. Second, encourage the potential. Third, respect the difference. Fourth, tolerate the unchangeable. And fifth, forgive the mistakes. If people can do these 5 things, life will be sorted. But unfortunately, how do you do these 5 things? That's why we have to have a seminar. The first thing I would like to leave you all with is a thought about talent. Very often, the most talented people are also the most loneliest people in the world. I'll repeat this. Very often, the most talented people are often the most loneliest people in the world. Because talent can help you achieve certain amount of success. It can help you open the first door to success. It can help you open the second door to success. It can help you open the third door to success. But talent can never help you open the final door to success. Because the final door to success is not opened just by talent. But along with talent, you need what is known as good attitude. Unless and until you have good attitude, you really cannot connect with people. We often find that highly talented individuals joining corporate organizations. But once they join the organizations, talent helps them achieve getting into the organization. But to stay in the organization and stay happy in the organization is something that is only determined by good attitude. I had a couple that used to come to my programs, to my talks in India. One time they came to me and they were almost on the verge of a divorce. So I asked them what went wrong. And they came up with a really funny thing. So when people are very serious about fighting with one another, for the rest of the world, it's actually a comedy. It's a joke many times. Let me explain. a graduate from IIT, IIM. In India, somebody who is a graduate from IIT and IIM is actually like a demigod. He's like, practically like a godly person, because it's the highest degrees you can get in India. And the wife was a graduate from ISB Hyderabad, which is again a very, very prestigious B school. Now they are highly educated people. But the wife was telling me that for my husband, everything is an Excel sheet. So whatever I do for him, he writes it down on an Excel sheet and he puts a tick. And he does the same thing for me and he puts a tick. If I smile at his mother, he puts a tick. And he smiles at my mother and puts a tick. If I get him a gift, he puts a tick, and then he gives me a gift and puts a tick. She said, I can't just handle this. Highly talented people, but absence of good attitude. So, in the Mahabharata, there is a story of a person named Karna who had extremely high talents but extremely low attitudes. So, talented people often look at perfectionism in themselves. If, as long as they are perfect, everything is going on perfect in their life, they are happy. The moment one small imperfection comes in or one small failure comes in, that's when they start struggling with themselves. Therefore, talent is not enough. When they hire people in the Australian Army, one of the things they do while they hire people in the Australian Army is they check if you ever had a failure in your life. And if you have never failed in your academics in your life, they don't take you in the army. It's very interesting. So it's probably the only place in the world where you need to have a failure to be admitted. The reason is because if the person experiences his first failure in the war, they don't know how he'll react to it. Because to be able to deal with failures, to be able to deal with negativities in life, it requires a certain amount of substance. And that really determines what the inner ability of a man is. Tomorrow we're going to speak on something known as emotional intelligence. I'll introduce the topic today. Emotional intelligence essentially is all about your ability to handle yourself in the midst of a very strainful, stressful situation and in the midst of complicated relationships. Today, people have high levels of IQ, intellectual quotients, very high levels of PQ, physical quotients, fitness and gyms and so many things, workouts, all that. But they have very low levels of EQ, which is emotional quotient. EQ is all about your ability to handle yourself in the midst of the greatest stress and your ability to handle other people in the midst of the greatest stress. So most people today, when they join corporate organizations, they get into it because of high IQ, but then once they get into it, that's when they start struggling because the EQ levels are low. And that's when they start complaining, saying that I will take up a project where I am the only person in it. Don't give me a team. Because the moment you get one more ego into the picture, there's clashes. And that's actually a sign of low EQ. Leadership is all about creating legacies. Creating an empire is very easy, but creating a succession is very difficult. Leading is easy, but creating a legacy is very difficult. Holding power is easy, but empowering others is very difficult. When an organization grows, there are generally three types of leaders that come out of big organizations, growing organizations. The first type of people are those who they've expanded the organization, they've made it very big, but in the process of creating the organization, they also create problems along with it. And once the problems become big, they don't know how to deal with it. The second type of leaders are those leaders who are leading, but they turn a blind eye to every problem that comes where they have an attachment. And the third type of leaders are those leaders who know how to solve the problem. They can see the problems, but they have no empowerment to solve the problem. So every organization which is big comes across these three types of leaders. As a result, they struggle a lot. And therefore, at such times, you need somebody from outside coming in. They hire consultants from outside to come and try to solve the problem. So for leadership to survive, every leader has to do 4 things with people he leads. These are known as the 4 A's of leadership. These are the 4 A's of what we call as team building. The first A is known as acceptance. Acceptance essentially means we need to learn to start accepting people as they are, rather than expecting them to be as we are. Generally, human beings like to make others a Xerox copy of themselves. Every person they connect with, they like to make them just like themselves. And that's why they struggle a lot. The Vidura Niti from the Mahabharata gives a very interesting example. The example is, leaders should be like a honeybee. If you have seen honeybees, they go to one flower, suck a little honey from the flower, go to the next flower, suck a little more honey from the next flower, go to the third flower. You will never ever find a honeybee sucking so much honey from one flower that the flower dies. The honeybee never does that. It only knows how much to take, a little bit. Human beings are like flowers. And the honey that they have, each flower has some honey, is the potential of what they can offer us. In every relationship, in every human being, they can offer us something valuable. So we are allowed to take a little bit of honey, but we are not allowed to destroy the flower. So today is a culture of use and throw. We tend to love things and use people. Ideally, we should be loving people and using things. People and love things, people actually feel very, very disgusted, especially when it comes to leadership. And that's why this principle of acceptance is a very important principle for every leader to have. That means, if you really want people to stay with you for your life, you need to learn to start accepting them as they are, rather than expecting them to become as you are. The second thing is known as appreciation. Appreciation should be done in public and criticism should be done in private. But unfortunately, we do exactly the opposite. We appreciate privately, if at all, just to whisper, good. But we criticize publicly, and that too enthusiastically. So, as long as the principle of appreciation is followed, appreciation is like a magic carpet. It takes relationships to the next level. And what is the kind of appreciation that should be done? Most people, they don't know how to appreciate another person at all. In the name of appreciation, what we end up doing is what is known as flattery. The difference between appreciation and flattery is that flattery is just lip talk. Flattery boosts the ego. It doesn't really encourage a person. The person you flatter also knows that what you're saying is not true at all. But appreciation actually is much deeper. To be able to appreciate another person, you need many things. The first thing is you need eyes to observe. Then you need the mind to analyze the qualities of the person. Then you need your heart to feel. And then you need your lips to talk. That's when appreciation actually happens. Appreciation should be done continuously. Appreciation should be done consciously. Appreciation should be done enthusiastically. Now, whenever I talk about appreciation, people just have some kind of a funny doubt why the need for appreciation is. Just like I was giving a talk in India about to a group of people. This was a pre-marriage ceremony, and everybody was enthusiastic about a new relationship being formed, and so in the context of that, I was speaking about the importance of appreciation. There was a 75-year-old man who stood up, and he told me, I have been married to my wife for the last 50 years. Do I still need to appreciate her? The very fact that I'm living with her, doesn't it mean that I'm appreciating her? I looked at him and I told him, you have a brilliant smile. The moment I said he has a brilliant smile, 75-year-old man, he was like beaming. He was so happy. I asked him, did you feel good about it, that I appreciated your smile? He said, of course. I said, you've been smiling for the last 75 years. And God knows how many people would have appreciated it. You still felt good, So the point I was trying to make was, no matter how much a person is appreciated, it's never enough. And actually, the fact is, one of the things that every employer complains about his employees is that I'm doing so much for them, but they're not appreciating me enough. And the only complaint that every employee has about his employer is that I'm doing so much for him, he's not appreciating me enough. Both sides, same problem. The lack of appreciation. What people really are hungry for is not for money. They're not really hungry for money, they're not hungry for fame, they're not hungry for position, they're not hungry for anything else. The only thing people are hungry for is genuine appreciation. And when people really feel appreciated, they feel encouraged. And when they feel encouraged, they're ready to do anything for the person. The third thing that a leader needs to remember is known as acknowledgement. The first is acceptance, the second is appreciation, the third is acknowledgement. People need to feel acknowledged. They need to feel that their presence is acknowledged in the organization. So, for example, I was staying in a monastery as I was introduced, and we had about 150 monks over there, and we have a community of about 5,000 people connected. One time, there was one man who had a serious complaint about the management. He wrote an email, a massive list of complaints. So we found out who this man is, and we found out that he's no one. Practically no one in the community has not done anything substantial, and we don't really need to give so much importance to him. But then our leaders decided, let's hear him out. So they appointed one very senior person to sit with him and discuss. The senior leader, he sat with him for 2 hours one day and heard him out. This man had only negative. The next day again they met for 2 hours. Again, this man had only negative things to say. Third day again 2 hours. They met 5 days continuously, 2 hours each. And this man only heard. After 5 days, the 6th day when this man came, he was crying. He had only positive things to say. Interestingly, the only thing that we did for him was heard him. That's all. My understanding is, people don't need solutions to the problems of life. What they really need is somebody who can understand their problem. In the Ramayana, there is a story of Dasharath, the king of Ayodhya. He asks the people of Ayodhya, why do you want Ram to be the king? And they give very interesting reason why they want Ram to be the king. They say that Ram is somebody who comes to our house and cries with our family members whenever we are in trouble, whenever some misery happens in our life. And when we are happy, he comes to our house and he is more happier than our family members. When I read this section of the Ramayana, I just thought about it for a second and I realized it says that when they are in trouble, when they are in problem, Ram comes and cries with them. I was thinking, it doesn't say that he comes and solves their problem. Whenever people come to me with their problems, I sit and hear sometimes for an hour, for 2 hours. And after they speak out their problem for 1-2 hours, after 1-2 hours they tell me, thank you very much, you have solved our problem. I have not opened my mouth at all. People don't need solutions to the problems of life. They need somebody who can understand their problems. Because not all problems are meant to be solved. Some problems are meant to be tolerated. Some problems are meant to be neglected. And very few problems are actually meant to be solved. What we really need is somebody who can acknowledge our presence in their lives. That's all. We need somebody who can have an understanding heart. And that really helps people stay connected for life. So the first concept is acceptance. The second is appreciation. The third is acknowledgement. And if these first three are not done, then a fourth thing comes up. The fourth A is known as alienation. Alienation essentially means if people don't feel enough accepted, enough appreciated, and enough acknowledged, they feel alienated. They feel they don't belong to that place. They don't belong to the organization. They don't belong to the family. I know so many people who tell me, I am staying with an alien. Doesn't speak, my language. He lives in a different world only. And sometimes people feel like they're staying with a wall, No emotions at all. No connection at all. So why do people feel like that? The reason they feel like that is because they don't feel enough appreciated, accepted and acknowledged. And therefore they feel alienated. We had a young boy staying with us in our monastery. And this boy, he observed something very interesting. So there was a series of thefts happening. people losing the mobile phones, people losing money, and those are the days when there was no CCTV cameras. So we couldn't figure out who the thief was. And this young boy, he said, I know who the thief is, but I'll not tell. We were wondering, come on, you know who the thief is, why will you not tell? He said, when I had come for the first time, I observed something and I pointed it out to one of our seniors, and that person shot me down. That day I decided, no matter what I observe, I'll not share only. This man felt alienated because he was not appreciated, he was not acknowledged, and he was not accepted. And therefore he felt alienated. So the solution actually is the way in which leaders treat people who are following. To create a succession, they need to follow these 4 A's. And that's when a good succession gets created. I would like to introduce you all to a concept known as invisible leadership. Many things in this world are invisible. And many invisible things in this world are important, including oxygen, which is life sustaining. Right now, you're all breathing oxygen, invisible. So, in my understanding of leadership, one of the very important concepts of leadership is how leaders are experts in hiding themselves and pushing their followers to the limelight. Leadership is like a vanilla flavor in a cake. You taste any part of the cake, you'll find that vanilla flavor. If you put just one drop of it, and that's exactly how leadership is. So, a leadership is about a leader being invisible but all pervading. I'm going to share a story from the Ramayana, a very interesting story, but a story that really will make you think about what exactly leadership is. There's a story of the section of the Ramayana where there's a whole monkey army going to the southern tip of India looking for Sita, and they know there is an 800-mile ocean to cross. So the question is, who's going to cross? So all of them start discussing what are their strengths and weaknesses, how much each one can do. One monkey says, I can do 100 miles. Another monkey says, I can do 200 miles. Another says, I can do 500 miles. One monkey says, I can do 800 miles, but there's no guarantee I'll come back. What's the point in jumping across and not being able to come back? So there was a confusion and nobody was speaking. Everybody just kept quiet, silently sitting and sulking. Finally, one of their leaders, his name was Jambavan, he was looking at all the monkeys and he made a SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses. And then he pointed out to one of the monkeys who had not spoken at all, and that was Hanuman. And he pointed out to the strengths of Hanuman and he said how he can do it. He started inspiring Hanuman, giving Hanuman a pep talk, really reminding him of his powers. And from that point onwards, the hero of the Ramayana is Hanuman. But if you look at how many times in the Ramayana is the name of Jambavan mentioned after that, you will hardly find 3 or 4 times his name mentioned. So that means for the world, from the world's point of view, Hanuman is the hero. But from Hanuman's point of view, Jambavan is the hero. Leadership is not always about being an achiever. It's also about making achievers. Most people in this world are excited to become achievers. More important than being an achiever is about creating achievers. That's what invisible leadership is about. Jambavan remained invisible and he made Hanuman go into the limelight. Interestingly, the same Hanuman in the Mahabharata, he does an exactly opposite role. What does Hanuman do in the Mahabharata? If you study the entire epic of the Mahabharata, he's doing nothing. He's sitting on the flag of Arjun. Nothing. I mean, the hero of the Ramayana, what is he doing in the Mahabharata? The only thing he does is speaks words and inspires Bhima, who becomes the hero of the Mahabharata. So essentially, everyone gets to be a hero for some time. Being a hero for some time is not a problem. But trying to be a hero forever, that's a problem. Today, leadership is all about being in the limelight and not allowing anybody else to go ahead. So more important than being in the limelight is to create achievers. And that's what the highest goal of leadership should be. The highest goal of leadership should not just be to gain followers, but to develop leaders. And that's what invisible leadership is all about. And therefore, when a leader succeeds, he impresses the world. But when a leader inspires, he impacts the world of the person who is inspiring. A king one time, he called his minister and he asked his minister, which is the profession that is instrumental in making our kingdom whatever it is? Which is the profession that has created the biggest success for our kingdom? So one minister got up and he said, the engineer. Because without engineers, they build the infrastructure. Without them, we wouldn't have dams, we wouldn't have forts, we wouldn't have irrigation, we wouldn't have anything. Another minister got up and he said, no, not the engineer. It's actually the doctors. Because nobody would have been born only if the doctors were not there, And engineers would have died if they get some disease, Another person got up and he said, it's not actually the engineers, nor the doctors, it's actually the people who are the soldiers. Because the soldiers actually protect our kingdom. And then, so the king, every time they mentioned a profession, the king said, get the best of the engineer here. I want to award him. Then somebody said, doctor said, get the best of the doctor here, I want to award him. Then he said, get the best of the soldier here, I want to award him. There was a list of, huge number of people who were there, best of the professionals. And then finally the king was so confused, seeing so many people. He asked the prime minister, whom you think, which is the profession that made the biggest difference? The prime minister said, let me explain. So he went out. And then he came back with an old lady, frail looking lady. And as soon as this old lady walked in, everybody stood up, including the king. The king asked the prime minister, who is this lady because of whom everybody is standing up so much? So the prime minister said, she is the teacher of all these people. And then the king understood, that's the profession that actually created all these guys. That means, what is the role of a teacher in our lives? Most people, we don't really acknowledge the role of a teacher in our life. In fact, I have gone to so many institutions that are into creating teachers. We call it, in India, we call it the B.Ed institutes. These institutes create teachers. And one of the things that I go to the institute and ask the teachers, the future teachers of the country, I ask them, why did you want to become a teacher? And I'll tell you, I get the saddest replies. It makes me actually depressed. Somebody said, I have no option, therefore I became a teacher. Can you imagine if that's the kind of teachers whom we create, whom we have? What is the kind of students that we're going to create in future? And therefore, what I understand of leadership is a leader is at best a teacher. And a teacher, more important than being a teacher to cover a syllabus, a teacher should be first a mother and then a teacher. And that's the quality of leadership that we need to create. That means we need leaders who are actually having the quality of being a mother, nurturing their followers to become leaders themselves. And that kind of leadership will last, and that kind of leadership will create future leaders. Perhaps the greatest tool in relationships is communication. Today, we have so many ways of communicating. We have so many ways to communicate. But today, though there are so many ways of communicating, people hardly are able to connect with one another. More relationships are getting destroyed because of WhatsApp than anything else. Fast communication. And then this is what we call today is love at first sight and divorce at first fight. It's typical nature of today's world. So the question is, how do you really communicate with one another? So I'm going to tell you all two stories from the Mahabharata about communication. I'm going to tell you all these stories. You will say, where is communication in these two stories? I'll explain to you all in the end, after narrating the two stories, how these stories talk about human communications. The first story in the Mahabharata is a story of Krishna and Arjun driving on a chariot. So there's a war going on. This is a very intense battle. And Arjun has a target that day, that by night, by sunset, he has to cross the entire ocean of an army and reach the other side and kill one person. That's the target. So Krishna and Arjun begin at sunrise, and there's a whole day of intense war. By afternoon, by noon time, the horses are exhausted. So when Krishna, the driver, he sees that the horses are exhausted, he tells Arjun, the charioteer, that we need to take a break. If you don't stop now, the horses will die. So in the middle of a battlefield, Arjun creates a wall of arrows. He creates like a fortress of arrows, within which Krishna takes the horses. And Arjuna is standing outside on the ground, continuing to fight, and inside, Krishna is tending to the horses. He's feeding them grass, he's feeding them water, he's massaging them, he's taking good care of them basically. Just imagine in the middle of a battlefield, it's the middle of an intense war. Krishna is taking all the time to take care of these animals. And then once the horses are ready, the war begins. This is the first story. The second story is of a man of Karna, who was one of the enemies of Arjuna. So Karna, when he was appointed as a commander-in-chief of the army, he said, I can fight the war, I can kill Arjuna today itself, provided I have a driver like Krishna. Generally, when students answer exams and you ask a child why you failed, they will say pen was not good. You always find some excuse, right? Why you didn't succeed. So Karna said, if I get a driver like Krishna, I can easily win the war. Duryodhana said, where will I find somebody like Krishna? So he said, there's a king called Shalya. This king is very good in driving chariots. So make him my driver. So Duryodhana was thinking, how do I make a king a driver? And that too, a king who doesn't want to be a driver. So he said, nothing doing. You make this happen, then I'll make sure I win. So Duryodhana went to Shalya and begged him, pleaded with him to become a driver. Shalya was frustrated. He didn't want to be a driver. And he was neither a friend of Karna. So he finally said, I agree to become driver on one condition. The condition is that I'll speak whatever I want. Duryodhana said, no problem. You be driver, do whatever you want. So Shalya became a driver of Karna. And he sat down on the chariot, started driving. Karna, first thing he said, take me to Arjuna. Shalya said, it looks like you want to die today. This is how the conversation began. So Karna said, just shut your mouth and drive. Shalya said, I'll do whatever I want. I'll speak. You can't stop me. Karna said, see, I can't blame you because your parents have not raised you properly. Shalya said, you're talking about my parents. You don't even know who your parents are. And then Karna said, it's not your problem and not your parents' problem. It's the country you came from. And he started blaming his country. And massive fight in the midst of a war. They're fighting. Karna is fighting a war. And over here, driver and the charioteer are having a verbal abuse. Finally, they reach where Arjuna and Krishna was. And Karna takes an arrow and aims it at the neck of Arjuna. Shalya is an expert warrior. He's an expert, he's not just a chariot driver. When he sees Karna aiming at the neck of Arjuna, he tells Karna, don't aim at the neck, aim at the chest. Karna tells him, you're a driver, you better drive it. Shalya tells him, see, I'm telling you something that is going to be useful to you, better listen to me. Karna says, once I take an aim, I don't change it. Shalya was really furious. He said, you're not Lord Ram to say that. You better change, otherwise you'll die. The arrow came whizzing towards the neck of Arjuna. And when Krishna saw the arrow coming to the neck of Arjuna, he realized Arjuna can't deal with this arrow. He did something very simple. He pressed his feet on the chariot. And as soon as he pressed his feet very hard on the chariot, the horses understood and they sat down. As soon as the horses sat down, the arrow passed over the head of Arjuna and hit the helmet. Arjuna's neck was saved. Shalya told Karna, I told you. And their fight continued. So I am stopping the story here. So now I'm going to analyze these two stories from the point of view of communication. Here, the first story was horses and a human being trying to communicate with one another. Right? And the second story is about two human beings trying to communicate with one another. Karna and Shalya were human beings speaking the same language, communicating in the same language, but they were still not able to understand what each other is trying to say. Krishna and the horses. Krishna is not even speaking the language of the horses. The horses are not even the same species. But the moment Krishna pressed his feet on the chariot, the horses understood immediately. So the question is, what is communication is about? So that means, my understanding of communication is, before you communicate with one another, you have to start learning to connect with one another. Krishna connected with the horses because he understood the language of their needs the previous day. Because Krishna understood the language of the needs of the horses could understand Krishna's language of his needs. Communication is more about connection than anything else. unless you understand one another's needs, unless you focus on one another's needs, you really can't communicate with one another. Today, people have so much to speak. Human beings have 2 ears and one mouth. Have you ever wondered why? So that you can hear more and speak less. Unfortunately, we tend to speak more and hear less. And because we tend to speak more and hear less, there are so many communication gaps today. I'm going to share with you all some thoughts on how people listen. I'm sure all of us have gone through communication skills seminars in our schools and colleges. And communication skills, whenever it is taught, we are taught reading skills, without writing skills, without speaking skills. I haven't come across courses where people are taught listening skills. Unfortunately, the most important part of communication is listening. And most confusions and most fights happen between people and relationships because people just don't listen. People want to speak more, faster than hear. There was a man who went to a hotel and he asked the waiter in the hotel, "Do you have any solution for hiccups?" The waiter said yes. He bent down, picked up a mop and hit him on his face. This man said, "Why did you hit me?" He said, "See, your hiccups are gone." The man said, "I didn't have hiccups. My wife who's sitting outside has hiccups." So sometimes people are so enthusiastic to solve people's problems. Even before they hear the problem, they solve it. These people are called as Superman and Superwoman, Typically, in every relationship, in every organization, you'll find these Superman and Superwoman, who have solutions to every problem of life. Just imagine you go to a doctor, and as soon as you sit in the doctor's clinic, he gives you a prescription. You got malaria, go. Without even hearing what your problem is. And therefore, there are many types of communication. But the greatest need of a human heart is the need to be understood. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And therefore, it is very important to learn to listen. So there are 5 types of poor listening skills. The first type of listening skill is known as spaced out listening. Spaced out listening means physically you're here, but mentally you're not here. I don't know how many people are doing that right now. Eyes are open, and gone. Mentally somewhere else. The second type of listening is known as pretend listening. This is typically what a father does in the morning when he's reading a newspaper and the child is coming and telling him what's happening in school. Yes, tell. Go ahead. The child is saying, "You're not listening." Father says, "No, I'm listening." This is known as pretend listening. This is what fishes do. I'm not sure you have observed fishes enough. Fishes, they never sleep, apparently. You know why? Because fishes have transparent eyelids. So even if they're sleeping, you will not know they're sleeping. So there are many people like that who pretend to be listening. They become so expert, especially when I give lectures all over the world. And I know so many people who are sitting right in front of me, eyes are open, but they're sleeping. I can predict also, and they become so expert that they nod their head also while sleeping. The third type of listening is known as selective listening. They only listen to those words that are useful to them. And then there is something known as word listening. That means I only listen to words, but I don't listen to the intention and the meaning behind the words. Because many times when we speak things, what we say in terms of the words doesn't mean what we actually say. And therefore, it is very important to get beyond these 5 types of listening. The last one is known as self-centered listening. That means I listen to only those things that are useful to me. Unfortunately, we all end up in doing these 5 types of listening only. But the most important type of listening is known as empathic listening. Empathic listening essentially means that you put yourself in the shoes of the person whom you're listening and whom you're communicating with. And that's when you really understand what that person is trying to say. And that's when the deepest type of communication happens. The next thing I'm going to share with you all is a very important thought about provocations. The test of the greatness of a person is in his ability to deal with provoking situations, especially leadership. is all about dealing with provocations. Every human being has a hot button that one conceals from the world. And every now and then you'll find somebody coming and pressing that button. And there are some people who come into our life that don't just press the button, they hammer the button. And you just don't know how to deal with these people. I always tell that every human being has one person marked to make his life miserable. Because everyone has at least one person appointed in his life just to make his life miserable. There was a guy who I met many years back, and he was sharing with me about his life. And he was telling me about how his life is fantastic. Having the best job, the best wife, the best children, the most amazing house, the best of the jobs, the best of the boss, the best of salaries, the best of the cars, the best of everything. When I heard him for about half an hour talking about how great his life is, I started wondering, something seems to be wrong here. It doesn't seem to be like the message of the Gita, the Gita doesn't. After half an hour of speaking about how great his life is, finally he said the word but. The moment he said the word but, I said, wow. Now I'm waiting. And then he said, but my mother-in-law. And then he started speaking about how everything in his life is miserable because of this one person. His wife is bad, his children are bad. I said, that's exactly how life is. Every person has one person marked specifically for you. Test your greatness. And that's when we need to really understand how humans react when they are provoked. So, generally people react in three ways when they are provoked. The first way in which people react is like a hagfish. There's a fish known as a hagfish. When a predator comes to the hagfish, he throws a slimy substance on it. This is known as verbal abuse. So the first way in which people react when they are provoked is verbal abuse. Give some bad words. In India, there are, I don't know if you ever heard of this, there are competitions of giving bad words. Entire competition. I mean, they actually have a competition of giving bad words. It's called a gali giving competition. And the one who can give unique bad words for the greatest duration of time wins. And there are people who manage to, have records of 2 hours of giving bad words continuously. So this is for the first type of abuse is known as verbal abuse. Blast. The second type of abuse, when somebody provokes you, is like an electric eel. So when a predator goes to an electric eel, it gives a shock, electric shock. This is known as physical abuse. You slap that person. The second level of reaction, basically. And the third way in which human beings react to provocations is like an exploding ant. There's a particular insect known as an exploding ant. When it gets too much stressed, it blasts. It commits suicide. It just blasts itself. This is known as self-abuse. So there are people who, when they are provoked, they do verbal abuse. There are people who do physical abuse. Then there are people who do self-abuse. So all the three are bad ways of dealing with provocations. So why do people provoke another person? Generally, people provoke another person to hide their own inferiority. And the second reason why people provoke the other person is to become happy when they see the other person getting provoked, to know that I'm not the only one. This will also get provoked, So they feel actually, great about themselves when they provoke another person and the person gets provoked, And the third thing is, they get great confidence about themselves that they're able to provoke others. So they increase their confidence level at your cost. So when you go through a health test, of course all of us have gone through a health test. When we go through a health test, we mentally are prepared for a prick. Like in my case, I'm prepared for 3 or 4 pricks, because they don't find my vein somehow or the other, So when you go for a health test, you're mentally prepared for a pin prick. But if you're walking on a street and suddenly a thorn pokes you, what happens? You scream. It's just too much trauma, right? But the size of the pin is exactly the same. In a health prick, when a injection or a syringe is inserted in your hand, the prick is exactly the same. But why do you react differently? The reason is because in the first case you're mentally prepared for it, and in the second case you're not mentally prepared for it. And therefore, when you're not mentally prepared, you tend to be very, very reactive. When you're prepared, you tend to be very, very calm about it. This is exactly what life is. I had a friend of mine who was a boxer, and we're just talking about life, and just out of random, I just boxed him tightly on his stomach. This guy, he started howling in pain. I said, "You're a boxer. How can you be howling in pain like that?" He's holding his stomach and he's howling in pain. He said, "I was not prepared when he boxed me." Then he said, "Now box me." He was prepared now. I started boxing my game, really intense hits. Nothing happened. That's when I realized that's exactly what life is. When you are mentally prepared for a provocation, no matter how much people provoke you, nothing happens to you. But when you're not mentally prepared for a provocation, even if somebody does a little bit, you just get agitated. And therefore, it is very important to start learning to approach provocations first with an internal dialogue. So, we shouldn't allow provocations to escalate too much, because the mind tends to escalate provocations much beyond that what it is supposed to be. So first thing is we need to start developing an internal dialogue about how to handle provocations in our lives. And then once we have an internal dialogue, we actually tend to do what is known as responding to a provocation. There are two ways to deal with provocations, deal with life in general. One is the soda bottle way, and one is the Bisleri bottle way. The soda bottle, if you look at a spirited, can, you shake it and you open it. What happens? Everything comes out. And a Bisleri bottle, you shake it and you open, nothing comes out. These are two ways to live life. One is known as a reactive way of living life, and the second is known as a responsive way of living life. When you live a life based on reactive ways, that means the moment you are shaken up, life shakes you up, somebody shakes you up. There are people who love to shake up others. When someone open up, you just blast. You lose everything, basically. And then there are some people, no matter how much they're shaken up, nothing happens to them. And that's what we want to learn today, how to be responsive and not reactive. I'm going to share a story from the Ramayana that will help you understand this whole concept. This story of the Ramayana comes where Ram, Lakshmana and Sita are in the forest and a golden deer comes into their life. When Sita sees the golden deer, she's excited. She tells Ram, "I want that golden deer." Ram goes away, tells Lakshman to guard Sita, to take care of Sita, and he goes. So when Ram goes away, a little later he realizes that this is not a golden deer, it's actually a demon in disguise as a golden deer. So Ram shoots an arrow, kills the demon. The demon is named Marich. So while dying, Marich is very much a part of your culture. You know why? Because it is explained in the Ramayana that when Marich was shot by Ram, he landed in Mauritius. That's why this place is called Mauritius. That's why people love Ramayana over here. Anyway, that's apart from the story. So Marich, while he was dying, in the voice of Ram, he called out to Sita and Lakshman and died. So when Sita and Lakshman heard the voice of Marich, Sita started panicking. She thought Ram is in trouble. She started telling Lakshman, "Go and help your brother." Lakshman said, "Relax, nothing's wrong with Ram. That is a deal. That's not voice of Ram, it's a voice of Marich." He was very understanding. He understood the whole context. But Sita was very concerned. So here is a conflicting situation arising where Sita is concerned about Ram and Lakshman is confident about Ram. Both had the best intentions. But the miscommunication, the misunderstanding is stemmed from the fact that both of them are seeing the same scene from two different perspectives. Generally, people's actions are doubted because we don't understand the intention behind the actions. Sita, when she saw Lakshman completely complacent to the whole thing, she really became reactive. What the first scene, the first understanding. So Sita, she actually spoke something that hurt Lakshman so much. This section of the Ramayana comes after 13 years of their exile. So for 13 long years, Lakshman has been serving Sita and Ram menially. He has given up his family, he has given up the comforts of the kingdom, he has given up so much, he's practically given his youth to these two people. He has not slept one night also for 13 years. And when I'm saying he's not slept one night, he's not doing call center job, he's sleeping in the day, He's not slept one night guarding both of them, and all day long he's been serving both of them. After 13 years of such contribution and such sacrifice. Sita tells him, I know why you're here with us. You're waiting for a chance that Ram goes away so that you can enjoy me. She doubts his character. Can you imagine? So Lakshman, he feels so hurt when Sita speaks those words. He tells her, I'm going from here, but I know for sure when I come back, you won't be here. He goes. When he reaches Ram, Ram asks him, who told you to come here? I told you to guard Sita. And then they find that Sita is missing. Ram blasts Lakshman like anything. He said, you're a useless person. You have no competence. The only one thing I told you to do, you can't do that also properly. So here is Lakshman. One person is doubting his competence and one person is doubting his character. If you're in an organization where your competence and character is doubted, why will you continue in that organization? If anybody else was in Lakshman's place, they would have said, hell with both of you, I'm going back to Ayodhya. They would have packed up and gone back. But Lakshman continues staying with the two of them. Why? This teaches us a very important principle of life about relationships. 30 years of relationship can get destroyed in 30 seconds if you don't know this principle of relationship. And if you know this principle, you can actually handle so many provocations that come into your life. Instead of being reactive, you can learn to be responsive. Lakshman did what I call as press the pause button. When you are in the midst of seeing an action movie and suddenly a phone call comes, what do? Press the pause button. You come back, right? So Lakshman, as soon as Sita spoke those words, he pressed the pause button and he asked himself a question. The question he asked himself was, does Sita actually mean what she spoke? The answer that he got from within his heart was no. Sita doesn't mean what she spoke. Her concern for Rama is coming out in the form of these words. And then when Ram spoke those words, again he pressed the pause button. He asked himself the same question. Does he mean what he spoke? Then he realized that he doesn't mean what he spoke. His concern for Sita is coming out in the form of this word. Now the question is, whenever I tell this story, people ask me, now you're telling me press the pause button. Lakshman press the pause button. When we are in such situations of life, forget pressing the pause button, you don't know where the remote control is. Very difficult to press the pause button at all. So the question is, what inspired Lakshman to press the pause button that day? If you study Lakshman's personality, throughout the story of the Ramayana, he's an angry young man. You get angry at the drop of the hat. But in this particular instance, what made him so stable? If you get an answer to this one question, whenever you go through a situation like this, and you remember this one thought that Lakshman had, you'll be able to actually handle a lot of your relationships stably. The one thought that Lakshman had was a thought of gratitude. Lakshman thought, 25 years Sita has deposited love in this relationship and she has made one mistake today, one withdrawal today. Should I forget to be grateful for the 25 years of love for this one mistake that she made? When Ram spoke those words, again, the one thought of gratitude that he had was, 40 years Ram has deposited love in this relationship. Should I forget to be grateful for the 40 years of love for this one mistake that he has made? That one thought of gratitude inspired Lakshman to press the pause button. The quality of my communication with the world outside determines my success. But the quality of my communication with the world inside determines my happiness. Actually, this whole ability to press the pause button, this whole ability to be responsive and not reactive is all about actually learning to talk to yourself. There was one lady in a mall and she is standing in front of her daughter. This girl was crying like crazy, yelling, crying like mad. So this lady was looking at the girl and telling her, Jennifer, relax. The girl kept crying more and more and more. The mother looked at the girl and said, Jennifer, relax. Don't react. The girl kept crying more and more and more. The mother looked at the girl and said, Jennifer, don't create a scene here. Relax. It was an old man who was watching this whole thing. He came to this lady and he told her, ma'am, don't you think you're talking a language that is too adult-like? This girl is not able to understand. Why don't you speak a language more child-friendly? The mother looked at him and she told him, who told you I'm talking to her? I'm talking to myself. Jennifer is my name. And this man, so the quality of my communication to the world outside determines my success. But the quality of my communication to the world change how people behave. But I can deal with how I behave. So next time when you are, standing in a line and somebody jumps the line and goes in front, you tell yourself, Jennifer, relax. Next time you're standing in front of the toilet and your family member is just not coming out, you tell yourself, Jennifer, relax. Next time you go to a hotel with your family, you go to a hotel to have a good time with the family. But generally what we end up doing there is we end up stressing ourselves so much. We place an order, we're looking at that door when that fellow is going to come out. So much anxiety, And then finally that fellow comes out and he goes and gives the order to the next table, Tell yourself, Jennifer, relax. In life, we need to learn to talk to ourselves. Responding is about talking to yourself first. Reacting is about speaking and then thinking. Responding is about thinking and then speaking. In life, many relationships can be saved. We just understand this one principle of responding and not reacting. I'll end with one very important concept of leadership, which is a very, very important concept that every leader should learn. This is about how to deal with success. Every human being at some point of time or the other faces success in his life and comes across success in life. In my understanding, more difficult than dealing with failure is dealing with success. In fact, dealing with failure is easy. But dealing with success sometimes becomes very difficult. And here is a story that I'm going to share with you all about how we should deal with our own successes. This is a story about a section of the Mahabharata where the whole war got over. And the question was, who is the winner? Who is the man of the series? That means, who is actually hero of the Mahabharata? So there was a guy named Barbarik. Just before the war began, Barbarik, he was coming to join the war. So Krishna saw Barbarik coming to join the war. So Krishna, he went disguised as a Brahmana to Barbarik, and he asked him, whom are you fighting with? Whom are you going to join? And he asked him, you are walking into the war, it's a massive war with no weapons. How are you going to fight this war? So this man said, I have 3 arrows with me. He took out 3 arrows and showed it to Krishna. Krishna started laughing. He said, with 3 arrows you're going to fight an entire war? He said, yeah, these are magical arrows. So Krishna asked him what magic it can do. He said, I can, with 1 arrow, I point all the people that I want to kill. And with the second arrow, I shoot and I kill all those people. And the third arrow, if I decide that I don't want to kill somebody, I unmark that person with that third arrow. Almost like Photoshop, So Krishna, he said, can you show me? He said, he pointed out to a tree and he said, can you remove all the leaves of this tree? And this guy, he marked all the leaves of the tree with 1 arrow. And with the second arrow, he shot and all the leaves were taken off. And the arrow came and stood at Krishna's feet. Because Krishna hid 1 leaf below his feet, just to test him. And then Krishna realized this guy is really powerful. So Krishna, he was disguised as a saintly person. So he asked him, can you give me some charity? Krishna asked him, whose side are you going to fight on? This man replied, I'm going to fight on the weaker side. Very diplomatic answer. Because right now, in the beginning of the war, the Pandavas are weak and the Kauravas are strong. So in the beginning, he will fight with this side. And because he is there, if that side loses, if that side becomes weaker, he will change sides. So it's a very complicated guy. So Krishna said, can you give me some charity? He said, ask whatever you want. He said, I want your head. This man got bewildered. You don't ask somebody's head for charity, right? So this man said, I'll give you my head, but please give me 1 boon. He understood that this has to be Krishna himself. So Krishna, he revealed himself, and then this man said, the boon I want is that I want to see the whole war. Please show me, please allow me to see the whole war, though my head is cut off. So Krishna put his head on a stick and put the stick on top of a mountain. And this guy saw the entire war from top of the mountain. Only his head saw. Head was moving around, So after the war got over, there was a discussion of who is the man of the series, who did best in the war. So all of them decided, let's go and ask Barbarik, because he was the only one who actually saw everything, So they went on top of the mountain, they asked him, according to you, who is the man of the series? Barbarik gave a very interesting answer. And this is what I call as the X factor behind success. He said, according to me, after observing the 18 days of war, in my understanding, nobody fought. Nobody did anything. And nobody is a hero. The only thing that actually I saw in the war was Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra was going around the entire battlefield and killing everyone. time factor. So, I just want to relate this to our corporate world, to our present day life. There is something known as the X factor behind our success. Every person feels that I am successful because of my efforts. Every person feels I am successful because of my talents, my intelligence, my abilities. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is one very important verse that speaks about this X factor behind success. So Krishna says there are 5 factors that influence success, and you will relate this to your own personal lives, and you will all agree to it, surely. So there are 5 factors that influence success. The first factor is known as karta. That means you get the best person for the best project, you get the best results. So you have that as a choice. Any project you want to launch, you get the best person, you get the best results. The second is place, where the action is performed. You choose the best place for a particular task, you'll get the best results. The place does make a difference. India-Pakistan match. If it happens in India, there's a greater chance India will win. If it happens in Pakistan, there's a greater chance Pakistan will win. Depends on, the place does make a difference. The environment makes a difference. So you choose the best place, you'll get the best results. The third thing is instruments. You choose the best instruments, you'll get the best results. The fourth thing is the types of endeavors. You put the best endeavors, you'll get the best results. You put more endeavors, there's a greater chance of you becoming successful. So these are 4 factors that you can control. You can control the person, you can control the place, you can control the instruments, and you can control the type of endeavors. But there's a 5th factor that Krishna speaks about in the Gita that you can't control. That is known as Daiva. Daiva means the hands of God, the hands of destiny, what is known as fate, luck, what we call as. There are so many studies in the Harvard and so many business schools that speak about luck factor today. Because it's a fact that this is one factor that is beyond everybody's control. No matter how much energy you put in certain tasks, there will always be an option. There will always be an opportunity where you realize that something has fallen short. And that is known as the X factor behind success. And therefore, my understanding of what really the X factor behind success teaches us a lesson in humility. In the Indian context, when blessings are given, when somebody goes to a superior and asks for blessings, 2 words are spoken. Vijayi Vinayi Bhava. Vijayi Bhava means may you be victorious, may you be successful. But along with that, it also says may you be humble. Because more important than success is humility. In fact, if you don't have humility, success can actually get into your head. And if you have humility, so generally what happens is that success gets into the head and failure gets into the heart. When a person becomes highly successful, he becomes proud, and a person becomes a failure, he becomes depressed. And both are stem from the thought process that it's me who's doing it. Therefore, I always encourage leaders to think that there is one factor that is beyond you, and that factor will always keep you humble. That factor will always keep you grounded. And that factor will not allow your success to get into your head. Therefore, I would like to conclude with one statement. Talent is God-given. Be humble. Fame is man-given. Be grateful. And egotism is self-given. Be careful. Thank you very much.
ऐसे ही और भक्तिमय कार्यक्रमों के लिए देखिए हरे कृष्णा टेलीविजन। इसे प्राप्त करने के लिए आप अपने केबल अथवा DTH ऑपरेटर से संपर्क करें तथा और अधिक जानकारी के लिए आज ही डायल करें 8767 845 845।